We get to come on and talk to you after a big Giants win. Someone doing some winning around here. The Giants get their big win in New Orleans. And obviously, Tiki, for Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones, number one, first and foremost, was the best player on the field. But then for Saquon, because you guys obviously play the same position, for him to break off that, 54-yard off the screen pass, a dig route, was excellent. And then obviously he gets the game-winning touchdown in overtime, makes up for the fumble on that drive, and is able to get in the end zone. What did you see from Saquon that has been different than what you've seen all season?
Well, I mean, we saw a couple of big plays, pop plays that happened in the last couple of games versus Washington and then also Atlanta, but they were not. There's nothing sustained. It was one big hit and then 3 yards in a cloud of dust type of situation arising from bad offensive line blocking schemes and him being a little bit tentative. He's starting to look like he's feeling healthy, and I think that's a great thing for this Giants offense, which under Daniel Jones and now Jason Garrett calling Daniel Jones' number a little bit differently has started to get some space. Like there's space to maneuver in, and he's taken advantage of it. At least he did last weekend. Yeah, that wheel route that he ran that was perfectly thrown, perfectly executed, and got them back in that game was fantastic. And it's a big confidence builder from him. You can just see it. Like you see his energy back at the level that it was when he was a rookie on this team, and everyone was so excited about him. And I think it's only a positive going forward.
Tiki, what are the challenges as you look ahead, to the Cowboys on Sunday? The challenges you think Dallas presents this team?
Can we outscore them, type of thing?
or can anyone else?
Do you think the Giants defensively can slow them down, Tiki?
Yeah, they can, and they're getting a little bit better over the last couple of games. But I mean, Dak Prescott is operating at an incredibly high level, and part of it is confidence. He has this belief in himself. He trusts his wide receivers, his line. Zeke, who we were, kind of starting to feel like he was on the backside. He took that as a challenge and has a huge day. Tony Pollard also is in that backfield. That combo is one of the best in the league right now. But I think it's really about Dak. Like he's playing at a level that maybe we saw him ascending to at the beginning of last season, but we didn't get to realize it because he got hurt after 5 games, and he didn't lose anything this offseason. It's only grown, and that's a testament to him and his work ethic. He's a leader. Despite being a Cowboy, he's easy to root for, and I think that's starting to show on this team. But it's really Dan Quinn's defense that's changed this team. Like they're not highly ranked as far as yards and points, but they're opportunistic, and they can mitigate some of the big plays that they've given up in the past game by creating turnovers. And Trayvon Diggs is the prime example. I mean, the kid catches everything. If it's in his vicinity, he's going to take it, and that's troublesome for teams that come down there.
How do the Giants and Daniel Jones attack that defense?
Well, I think just like I've said all season with Daniel Jones, let him be the athlete. Like force the Cowboys to use 11 defenders to stop 11 offensive players. Obviously, the offensive line not included, but you know what I mean, right? You use his athleticism to your advantage and keep them off balance, keep them guessing on where the ball is going to go or who's going to be the playmaker on any specific play. They have the ability to do it, especially now that we see Kadarius Toney starting to get some burn here. Galloway is, had a big game as well. Saquon's starting to get healthy. Like the ability to match is there. It's just it's got to be done on a more consistent basis.
I guess, Tiki, do you look at last week's win against New Orleans? Do you look at that as a season-saving victory, or do you have to? What do you? Because I think Maggie and I had different expectations coming into this year for the Giants, right?
Yeah.
We don't look at it as being a rebuilding year. We're looking at the Giants being, relevant this year, playing meaningful games in the second half. Like, where do you see after the close losses to Washington, close loss to Atlanta, they got beat up by Denver, finally win one of those games, down 11, 7 minutes to go, on the road in New Orleans.
Yeah.
What do you think the rest of this Giants season now looks like?
Well, I've said this since the beginning. Like they're not a bad team, right? People wanted to lump them in with some of the bad teams in the NFL. They're not. They play well. They just don't know how to win. And I think now they're figuring out how to win. And winning a game like they did last weekend on the road, down 11, is a huge deal because it creates the reality that you can do it. and you can make stops when it matters. And even though they got, Taysom Hill, however you want to call that, early on in the game, they tightened it up and kept Jameis Winston in check. And so I think going forward, my expectation is they're going to compete. They're going to win some games. They're going to steal some games. Hell, they might steal one this weekend, right? But I don't know if they're playoff ready. I don't think that they are. Coming into this season, for me, it was finding first and foremost about Daniel Jones, who he is, what can he grow into, where's his ceiling, and I think we're finding that it's pretty dang high. And that's encouraging from a Giant standpoint. Obviously, you want Saquon to get healthy, but to me, it was about developing Daniel Jones. If they sneak into the back end of the playoffs, if they started hot, fantastic. But if they don't, it's okay, right? But the nonsense that we started to hear after last week when they were 0-3, Daniel Jones, not Daniel Jones, Joe Judge is on the hot seat and they got to fire somebody. It's reactionary. It's a process, man. It's always been a process in the NFL, especially when you have new and young coaches, and that's exactly where the Giants are.
Tiki, it's not happening in New York, but it's obviously caught the national headlines here with Urban Meyer and everything going on in Jacksonville. I mean, yikes. How many times do you have to address the team now? Super duper embarrassing. But to be honest, there were other things about Urban that have been embarrassing long before we got to this video. What happened at Ohio State at the end, who he hired as the strength and conditioning coach out of Iowa, a guy who had been known racist.
Chris Doyle,
this is just like one misstep after another for Urban. Do you think he's going to make it through the season?
I'm not sure. But guess what game I have this weekend?
Hey, Titans, Jacksonville.
Titans, Jaguar. Guess where I'll be.
Yeah.
Guess what we'll be talking about. I don't know anything about Urban the man, right? It's one of those interesting conundrums for a guy who's been so public, whether it's his success at Utah, at Florida, and in Ohio State. You never feel like you know who he is. And is he a good guy or is he a bad guy? And you get these hot takes on sports radio saying, oh, he's just a bad guy because this happened or that happened, or he let 32 arrests or whatever it was when he was at Florida, and the 3-game suspension at Ohio State, and then him trying to hire Chris Doyle in the NFL, and then the Tim Tebow experiment, and now this latest issue, which I really don't care about, but the only thing I care about is how it affects his team and whether or not he can still galvanize that locker room. And if the answer is no, I don't think he'll be able to last in the NFL.
Do you think he's lost the locker room? I mean, just from all of this stuff?
Well, here's the thing, Maggie. I think that he knows how to be successful in college. I don't think he knows how to be successful in the NFL. And there's a certain level of hubris that you see it on his face, right? Like, I know everything. I got all the answer. I got caught sticking my hand where it wasn't supposed to be at a club and I didn't fly home with my team, but I got an answer for you, right? That actually turns people off.
Yeah.
Right? It's being presented as he's being humbled, and there's some humility in his statements and his mannerisms as he's giving these press conferences. He's looking down and he's like, I should have left, and it's like, feel sorry for me, but his actions don't coincide with that, right? So it's hard to reconcile. If he really wants to recapture the locker room, he's got to ask for forgiveness, and then most importantly, ask for help, right? Ask for advice, right? Darrell Bevell is on that staff. He was a coordinator for those great Seattle teams. He has some experience, right? There's people who can give him the right kind of advice. I know that a lot of people are hot taking it that he's going to be out, that he's going to resign, that Shad Khan's going to fire him. He's not going to get fired. There's too much money involved here. But he does have to right this ship. I know they're all in on it, but it's a wait and see thing. I can't predict it because I don't know the man who he is.
Yeah, and it's understandable. It's amazing how quickly the wheels have come off here, Tiki.
Yeah,
that's
it's what happens when you lose, Moose. It's you know what I mean. Like, if they were 3-1 and then played well,
you take the challenge of going to the NFL. It's almost like some of this stuff is like stunning to him. I mean, Urban.
But isn't that always the case? Right? I mean,
yeah, I guess.
Saban, it happened with Saban. Chip Kelly is probably the one exception to that rule. He came in and changed a lot of things, and he actually was pretty successful in Philadelphia until he wanted all of the power. He wanted his college power back with the Philadelphia Eagles, and it created this tension with Jeffrey Lurie and the general manager, and it got out of hand for him. And ultimately, he went back to college, and really he took that break because he was going to have a show cause on from Oregon. But you know what I mean? It's hard. It's hard to come from college and know how to engage with men. right? I'm talking, young men are fantastic. College athletes, they're amazing. But when you're dealing with a 35 or 32-year-old man whose job was family to take care of, and you're out clowning around and not taking it seriously, preaching the good thing about, we're going to stick with us, Jaguar fans. We're going to figure this out. He literally said that. They posted it on their social media site, and then you're not going back home and digging in the tape, right? You got to say what you do, right? You can't say something and to do something very different.
And I guess it's what surprises me is a guy that is come across as smart as Meyer and as successful as he has been, doesn't know that when you go to the NFL, like there are no scholarships here.
No.
Right? You're not holding a scholarship over the head of an 18 or 19-year-old where they're going to do everything that you say because you hold their future in your hands.
That's right.
Where you could get like that kind of leverage goes by the wayside, and to not understand that when you make the jump from college to the NFL, when you're dealing, you need the players on your side.
That's
because
right.
if they're not, you're losing.
Yeah,
and
you
you're
got to
going to
have
be
advocates.
out, and they'll be still there.
You got to have advocates in your locker room. And I don't know what his relationships are like in that locker room right now. I've only know what I've heard. And that's not just with the players, it's with the coaches as well. People have to buy in. And if they look at you as a clown and you're doing clown things, and you're in trouble. And again, I think they're going to push through this. They're going to at least try to push through this. But Urban Meyer can't have missteps anymore. It's got to be about everything he can do to get this team to win. And if they start winning, these stories will start to fade. Yeah. But if they keep losing, it'll keep getting brought back to the forefront. It's just the narrative that exists in professional sports these days.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most surprising things is that he thought that he could somehow be inconspicuous when he was doing this at a place called Urban Meyer's Pine House.
I know. That's exactly right. Well, the thing that bothers me most about that, Maggie, is it makes me feel like he's unaware and can get away with moronic behavior, right? You just can't you can't. Like, my 15-year-olds know, my 17-year-old knows this,
well,
right?
If you live in a consequence-free world, which Urban is right about there, then...
Yeah, but what are the consequences here? Seriously.
No.
Well,
he's not going to get fired.
The 3-game suspension in Ohio State, he should have been fired on the spot then.
That's right. But what are the consequences right now? There aren't any.
No.
And so he's kind of going to get away with this unless he resigns, which I don't think that he is.
Tiki, a quick question about coaches, right? I heard Kirk Morrison yesterday, and I also heard Boomer and Gio ask Joe Judge the question about, have you ever had a head coach not fly back with the team?
Never.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah,
right?
It's amazing.
Head coaches, to me, they fly back from, especially losses like that one.
Yeah.
They fly back and they go right to the office. Mm-hmm. Like it's almost like a discussion. And I've heard this before. It's almost a discussion like, are we going to go get something to eat? We're going to lay down, but I'll meet you guys there in a couple hours. Right? It's literally that. And he stayed, didn't even fly back, and gets into this social media fiasco.
It's crazy.
Wow.
It is unbelievable.
Tiki, thank you as always.
Have a good game this weekend, right, Tiki?
It'll be fun.
Couple extra eyeballs on that game.
No doubt.
Appreciate you guys.
You got it.